I'm sorry, Liberal voters. Which Prime Minister candidate is the most like Trump 2.0?
Brad Raffensperger and Brian Kemp. Raffensperger and Brian Kemp, your governor, who I got elected, by the way. If it wasn't for me, he would not be your governor. I think everybody knows that. He's a very disloyal person, isn't he? Very disloyal. But these two are doing everything possible. Plus, your Attorney General would like to see him show up and do something. Right?
Sending Doug Ford onto Fox News to show them that we're not messing around up here. And Danielle next. Maybe we won't send Danielle. No, maybe we won't. We won't send Danielle. And keep her. No, keep her. No, it's a bad idea. Forget. Strike that. Just ignore that back there.
Well, that's interesting. Welcome back to Bakes on Things Daily. And we start a whole new week with our Liberal leader and faithful Prime Minister insulting two premiers this weekend, Danielle Smith and Doug Ford. And boy, does that sound familiar from what we hear down south, doesn't it? Well, here we are. We're starting a whole new week in the election, and my fellow Canadians, we've been hearing it over and over and over. Pierre Poilievre is Trump 2.0, Maple MAGA. But what if I told you that the real mirror image of Donald Trump in our politics in Canada is actually none other than Liberal leader Mark Carney? Let's break it all down. First and foremost, we have to talk about what happened on the weekend. But this isn't where it all ends. This is just the beginning. Over the weekend, Mark Carney took jabs at Alberta Premier Danielle Smith. We saw it in the opening video of this episode. This was all during his Western Canada campaign stop. And if it sounds familiar to you, it really should. Because last year, the U.S. election, Trump was doing exactly the same thing. Trump has a history of publicly insulting governors, even those from his own party. Carney's behaviors are extremely and eerily similar. And leadership is about building bridges, not burning those bridges, Mark. You can't burn bridges with the premiers unless you have an intention of not working with the premiers when you're the prime minister. What is Carney's approach here? Divide and conquer? Mark Carney's ascent to the prime minister's office is unprecedented. He has no experience in politics. Before this, he had never held elected political office. Wait a minute. Does that sound familiar? Oh, right. Donald Trump also had no prior political experience before becoming president the first time. Leading a nation is not an entry-level position. Experience matters, folks. It completely matters. Okay, that's fine. Experience, insulting your governors. What else? Well, liberals will say, what else? Oh, come on. Those are just two things. Well, Carney's tenure at Brookfield Asset Management might also look familiar. Real estate mogul, anyone? It's come under scrutiny. Surprise, surprise. Much like Donald Trump. Reporters suggest that under his leadership, Brookfield utilized tax havens, potentially avoiding over $5 billion in Canadian taxes while you paid everything, including the carbon tax. This raises huge questions about his commitment to economic fairness. Who does that sound like? It sounds like Donald Trump. But it keeps going. While Canadians are expected to pay their fair share, our Prime Minister's former company was allegedly sidestepping its obligations and taxes. All of this mirrors concerns that have been raised over the years about Trump's business practices. It all sounds and looks exactly the same. What about flip-flopping policies? Here we go. There's more similarities. Carney's stance on key issues, as stable as a leaf in the wind. He initially supported the carbon tax, but then proposed scrapping it during his leadership campaign, which, by the way, he just reduced to zero. Consistency? Nowhere to be found. Nowhere whatsoever. Canadians need a leader with a clear vision, not one who changes tunes based on political convenience like we've seen nonstop through the Liberals' campaign. But let's go back to the lack of political experience for a second. You see, before stepping into the political foray or the political arena, Carney had zero elected experience. Yet, he is aiming for the highest office in the land. How does that not remind you of Donald Trump? Both men are propelled by massive ego, believing that they can lead an entire nation without understanding the entire political landscape. The hypocrisy in the actions they take are insane too. Carney criticizes others like the premiers. He criticizes you Canadians and small businesses for tax avoidance, but was involved in doing exactly that with Brookfield, a company that benefited from tax havens in Bermuda. He talks about unity, but insults the provincial leaders. He literally claims to stand up for Canadians, but flip-flops on policies that impact your everyday lives. Who does that sound like? The similarities continue over and over and over again. Carney, when he was prime minister briefly there, sat down and literally had Doug Ford eating out of his hand because he had breakfast with him. And Doug was all into it. He was all in on Carney. And now he sits here and insults him about going on U.S. networks. Actions speak louder than words, and Carney's actions scream hypocrisy. The liberal narrative paints Pierre Poilievre as Trump 2.0. But when we actually examine all the evidence, like we have in this episode, it's actually Mark Carney who exhibits striking similarities to Donald Trump. The only difference is the net zero stuff. Trump would never have any part of that. But everything else is the same. Disrespect for provincial leaders. I mean, Carney's public criticisms of premiers mirror Trump's approach to governors. His lack of a political experience. I mean, both ascended to the highest office in the land without prior elected roles. How's that going in the U.S. right now? Questionable business ethics. Again, summarizing it here, utilizing tax havens and flip-flopping on key policies that affect the normal everyday Canadian. Canadians deserve a leader with integrity, someone who's had consistency. Pierre Poilievre has had major consistency. Everything he's talking about today, he's talked about for the last 10 years. And Canadians deserve respect, and somebody who respects all levels of government, including the premiers. It's imperative that we look beyond labels and examine actions. The evidence suggests that Mark Carney, not Pierre Poilievre, aligns more closely with the traits we've come to hate about Donald Trump. And yet here we are, some Canadians saying that Pierre Poilievre is more like Donald Trump while he greets children at his rallies. And we're completely ignoring everything that we've just said in this episode about Mark Carney that actually connects him directly to Donald Trump in terms of similarities. Stay informed, Canada. This is a huge election for us. Our future depends on what happens here. And when you're out there, liberals in particular, saying that Pierre Poilievre is the one who's Trump 2.0, who's Maple MAGA, who's MAGA North, but then you have a prime ministerial candidate who has tax havens, who lies every single day, who won't answer to his lies, who won't prove that he is part of the mission in Canada, who won't talk about his past as a banker and as a accountant and whatever else he's done and connect it at least to something political. There's this guy insulting premiers across the country. In what world do you think those premiers are now going to want to work with Mark Carney, especially when he sat down with Doug Ford and actually had a friendly breakfast with him at the beginning of his tenure as prime minister? And now he's insulting the very man who was showing him support, who has been quiet to support Pierre Poilievre because he actually did support Mark Carney. You think that's going to keep going after what Carney did this weekend? Probably not. But it also shows that there is some sort of dictatorship type totalitarian effort being made here. Mark Carney disrespects the premiers because he doesn't believe he needs the premiers. If the premiers and residents of these provinces, all the provinces in Canada, actually thought they were going to get some control taken back, if they actually thought he's going to build a pipeline, if he actually was going to give you your resources back, in particular in Alberta, you got another thing coming. Now, I knew Alberta's not going to vote for Mark Carney anyway, but the disrespect and the lack of respect for Alberta, for Ontario, for other provinces across the country, consistently through Carney's campaign, just shows that he is going to be one of those leaders that is all WEF oriented, all net zero oriented, and he does not care what you or anyone else or any other tier of government thinks. He proved it this weekend, and now you have to make the choice. Because all of this, Canada, is up to you. Make sure you like, subscribe, share as much as you can. Let's get this message out to our Liberal family members, friends, whomever. This is a big thing. When people in your family are sitting down and saying, oh, I don't like Pierre Poilievre because he's Trump 2.0, you got to share this. Because the reality is he's the furthest thing from it. And on top of that, just because he's conservative doesn't make him Trump, just so you know. And he's the one out there interacting with voters and constituents. He's the one out there showing you his family. He's the one out there interacting with other families, including other children, and greeting them and talking to them at these rallies. He's the one who's relating, Pierre is, to Canadians. What has Mark Carney said in any of his rallies that actually relates to a Canadian? Really? In all seriousness, what has he truly said? Has he ever dug deep? Because he hasn't. He has not dug deep. He continues to copy Pierre Poilievre's policies, the conservative policies, and present them as his own ideas in different ways. He continues to present asinine other ideas like the home ownership policy that doesn't even talk about home ownership in it, the housing policy, I should say, which has nothing to do with home ownership. It's ridiculous. It's beyond insane, and we all need to grab a hold of ourselves and really take a look at who needs to be next in this country. Thanks for watching Bakes on Things. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share, and I will see you next time.